Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. J-Rod Plays here. Today's video is going to be the Ghost of the Deep guide, and it's not that bad dungeon. I really actually like it. I like the pacing of it. I like the enemy density. Everything about it is nice and chill. It's chaotic in itself, but it's nice and chill as far as there's no hard boss DPS checks. As long as you execute and you keep going through your rotation and not everybody dies, then you'll be able to continue through the dungeon at your own pace, which is great. I always dislike fights that force people to use specific weapons or force you into a specific configuration. You do probably need a Well of Radiance or a bubble, something to protect yourself in a lot of these encounters, so that is kind of one of the only gripes that I had to switch from Strand, which I really wanted to play on, onto my Warlock in order to get us through these encounters. I had one person of light, and then I had one person who was like right at the edge of being at the intro of light to the encounter, so he had it a little bit rough, but he was good at executing, and the guy who was at light was a little bit behind on some of the mechanics, kind of trying to catch up, but he ended up getting it done. We ended up getting it finished. He had to take off, and then we got somebody in who was a little bit easier as far as picking up mechanics in the encounter. The first encounter is going to start off whenever you land into the arcology, and you're going to come to the center, and you're going to see a large ritual being performed with a knight at the door. You start the ritual by shooting the knight, and then from there, ads will spawn on both sides. If you turn back around where you came from, they'll spawn from both of those areas, one on the left, one on the right, and then also actually three, so there's a third. So there's a far left, a far right, and there's a center where you're looking at the spawns. Now, the more important things are going to be the statues that are surrounding the middle platform. These statues are going to be the ones that you're going to interact with in order to progress the encounter. And the way that you interact with these statues is you're going to have an ogre spawning, and I'll show you what the ogre looks like here. And the ogre is going to be giving you guys a buff that allows you to see kind of the trail like you would see in Savathun's Throne World whenever you were doing some of the deep side puzzles for chests. There's like a green trail on the ground. You would follow that green trail in the direction that it runs, and then from there, that green trail is going to take you to a symbol. And that symbol is going to be the symbol that you're going to follow around, killing ads as they spawn. So when you find the first area, you're going to see red bar enemies spawning. Kill the red bar enemies, and then you're going to be able to then see the next set of the path. When you get the next path, it's going to have you go to another symbol. And once you get to that other symbol, another set of ads will spawn. And you'll keep doing that, I believe, 3 times until you actually get to the final symbol. And when you get to the final symbol, that's when the Lucent Acolyte will spawn, or the Lucent Lightbearer, which is the wizard, or the knight. So you're going to get one of those 3 depending on where you are in progress. And since I've only done it one time, I'm not sure if it follows the same pattern. It may. But in our case, I believe we got the wizard first, and then we've got the acolyte and then the knight. And so you kill the Lightbearer, wizard, or the acolyte, or the knight, and then you're going to get a vestige of light. So the vestige of light, what that's going to do, that's going to allow you to interact with the statues in the center. And so then you take your vestige of light, you're going to run back to the center, and you're actually going to kill another wizard that's floating somewhere around the center pyre that's on fire with the green soul fire. Once you kill that wizard, then he's going to drop a deep sight pool. From there, activate the deep sight pool, and when you activate the deep sight pool, then you'll be able to see the symbols on all the statues. And in our case, the first symbol that we saw was the scorpion symbol. And so what we would have done if we were going to execute it right, we were going to then look at the symbols, find the statue that actually has the scorpion on it, walk up to it, and then you're going to interact with it, depositing the vestige of light, which I ended up finally figuring out here once we get the deep sight back up again. So you have to do it before the deep sight runs out, because if you don't do it when the deep sight runs out, then you won't see the statue again. So you just reactivate the deep sight before you run out of time, and then you'll just see here I'm kind of searching through some of the different symbols and trying to deposit, and I finally eventually get the scorpion one, and then the ritual statue manifests. And you'll notice that once the deep sight goes away, all the other statues go back to showing just an empty symbol, and then that other one will still carry your symbol that you were working on. And so once you've done that, then you're going to go back to the center, you're going to clear more ads, and once you clear that set of ads, then you're going to kill the ogre. When the ogre spawns, you're going to rinse and repeat. You're going to go back out, you're going to find your symbol, just pay attention to that symbol as you're clearing it, go through, kill the Lucent Hive, come back, and dunk it again. Now, once you've done that, each time you'll see that, like, each time the chain kind of continues and each statue lights up, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to deposit that final symbol. And when you deposit that final symbol, then you should be done with the encounter, and then you'll get your loot drops from a chest that spawns on the other side of the statues. So there's no like super big finale from what I remember. Just kind of double checking right now. Yep, that's it. So once you get the final statue dunked, and I believe it was 4 for us, then from there you will get your loot. I happen to get gauntlets. The new set actually looks really cool. I'm still excited to see what the rest of it looks like. It's not in the database. I just know what the chest and the hands look like, but it looks like it's really sick, and it's the gloves of the Taken King. So that's kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing. Try not to get into spoilers unless you already know what's up. But it was pretty cool to see that theme. And then you'll see kind of me checking out the way that the gauntlets look, and it looks like when everything is assembled correctly, you're going to look like I don't know, Swamp Thing or a seaweed monster or something like that. All right. Now, in order to get to the second encounter, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be progressing through and beginning to drop down into the depths, and so I'll go over that once the footage from here catches up. Okay, so now we're going into the second encounter. You're going to continue to drop down lower and lower until you get to these sections where you've got a turbine spinning. You'll drop down past some plates, or should I say walkways. They're kind of like catwalks. And you'll get to the point where you're going through ever smaller and smaller openings. And it's pretty cool because it kind of reminds you of a little bit of the Whisper mission, where some of the small openings allow you to jump through. And then you obviously get to the vibes where you're back on to like a dreadnought style ship, but in this case it's like a mix between the Whisper and some of the old Titan arcology style architecture. So once you get a little further in, you're going to hit the drilling platform. That's going to be the next encounter name, I guess, followed by the Hollow Fathom area. And how that works is now we're going to be using the mechanics that we picked up during the deep dive missions, where you jump in your dive suit and you've got a pressurization meter, and you have to hit bubbles as you go through. So when you begin this encounter, you're going to end up with a group of ads that you have to kill. The knights are pretty strong, so hit them pretty hard with your special weapons, heavy weapons. You're not really going to have anything as far as a big boss to worry about. This encounter is very similar to the encounter in the Spire, where you were traversing and connecting the lines, and it was just ads that were in your way. It's going to be very similar here. There's no big bad in this portion when you're dropping down. So go ham with your heavy. That way you save yourself some time. Don't worry about it. Plenty of heavy will drop for you along the way. There'll be plenty of ads to kill along the way. As you're dropping down through this first section, you see these rotating platforms. There may be some lore here. One of my teammates might have had a chance to interact with it. I'm not sure, because we never went back up. We were kind of busy exploring and we fell down. Also, the platforms can hurt you, so just be careful not to die off the platforms, because then you'll go all the way back up on a 40-second timer and you'll just be watching your friends have a good time. So the next thing you're going to do is drop down further through these middle sections, and these middle sections, they really don't have a whole lot to stop you other than, again, those little rotating platforms. So there's not a ton of danger, but once you get to the very bottom of the middle section, it almost looks like a turbine style area. You'll end up with a small drop down through a tube, and you'll see there that is the bubbles that are beginning to use that mechanic with the pressurization suit. So now we've got the pressurization suit on, so we just hit the bubbles to replenish it. It's got an AoE effect, so if your teammates are nearby, try to grab them alongside your teammates, because the bubbles will disappear for a few seconds, and your teammates may end up dying because they were a little too far away from you. So try to grab the pressurization bubbles next to each other so that AoE hits everybody. And then from here, you're going to drop down into this large open vault looking area. Once you end up getting through the bottom of these, there's going to be an open area on the side that doesn't look like you can drop down. It looks like it would be like the edge of something that you wouldn't want to drop down, but you actually can. And so my partner and I that were on this depth together, or waiting on our teammate up top, were kind of going back and forth, and we were trying to figure out, hey, where do we drop down? Well, little do you know, right here where I'm standing next to this little blue light, there's nothing protecting us on the sides. Like, there's no glass to keep you in, or no kill zone or anything. So eventually we figure out, like, hey, we're going to drop down the side, and that's where you end up dropping down. Because I thought that maybe it was this thing in the middle here, but no, it's definitely the sides. So you end up dropping down the sides, and when you do drop down the sides, you end up coming back to the middle, and this is kind of the first transition that you're looking at, you're going to end up dropping down the side, and then you're going to end up looking for a turbine that's going to shoot you back up into a bubble in which you can breathe. And so that's going to be the next section. So just be careful with the catwalks. Try not to get bumped off the edge, because if you do, then you do die if you go too far. From here, you can see that I'm landing on this lower area, and I'm going to hit the jets. My teammate was trying to see if there's anything further down below that, and there was not, just these jets here. And so from there, I kind of chilled because I didn't want to actually wipe us and have us have to start all the way over, damaging again. And so once I get done chilling here, I'm just going to kind of skip forward a tad. I end up finding that there's like a light that you can go to, and the light itself ends up a tunnel, and that tunnel will take you straight down. There's no pressurization until you get to the very bottom, and then it starts again where you start grabbing bubbles, and you kind of repeat this again. So you grab your bubble, you'll drop down to a depth in which you'll find that there's a jet that will shoot you back up into a area that has air, and then once you do that again, you'll end up one more time looking for another light kind of to drop down to the next section. And so right now, as you'll see, I'm grabbing bubbles. I'm kind of dropping through, and this room looks like it might be one of those rooms where you could jump off the side, but in this case, there is no side drop on this one. This one, I believe, it was just a like a broken window. So I saw the shattered glass on the ground, and I was like, oh, okay, this is where we have to go. So from here, we're going to grab the bubble, we're going to go up the jets again, and then we're going to have another similar drop down in the next section. And once you get into this other drop down area with a large pool in the middle, then all of a sudden your objective is going to update, and you're going to end up saying to the point where reach the wreckage, and then it gets real. Because now you're going to actually have this like beautiful undersea area that you're going to traverse, very similar into how you do the deep dive. But one thing to note here is that there's some danger in the fact that you don't just float wherever you want. Like your undersea suit doesn't have jets on it or anything to carry you, and your warlock jump, your titan jump, and your hunter jump, they're not going to give you those additional boosts. So once you jump once and you're following the bubbles down, that's all you get, is you just get that one jump. And as you'll see here, I kind of got stuck thinking that I was going to be fine, and then I had to rush to the wall to get out of the area before my pressure suit cracks, and it's starting to crack on me now. I was able to make it through, though, and clear a bunch of ads in this area. And so this section, as we're getting through, you just kill the ads, you find a yellow knight, you kill the yellow knight, and then once that's all clear, you move through to the other side, and then you're going to be at another part of the puzzle in which you're dipping down again. And these blistered knights, actually there's two, are going to be the indicator that, all right, I'm in the right place, I'm almost to the next section. And so when you're in the next section, you're back into that situation where you have that danger again. I made the mistake of jumping straight down here and falling, but really what you're going to be doing is you're going to go all the way to the edge of this coral to the left, and you're going to jump to that coral to the left there that I just passed, and that coral is what's going to get you on to the next section. And so when you make it to that coral, you're going to end up having that one additional bubble to save you for your air, and then you can jump one more time. Just be careful so that you can make it to the next set of the corals, and now you're set. Now you're good. Now you can get the final bubble, and then there'll be a little cliff that you can hop down off of. You want to go and you want to turn to the left there, and you want to end up going through the wall. And this is going to be another fight section where you end up killing a bunch of ads, you end up killing blister knights, and as long as you're got a good ad clear build on me, I was running the strand suspend build with the suspend grenade, and I was using as well the aspect where you throw the tangles, and the tangles will also suspend. So I was really kind of tying everything up, and anything that was like in a big group I had no problem handling. You know, it was just a little spread out stuff that gave me a little issue, because some of the knights were getting their health back and kind of just being buggy in general, kind of a day one thing with these dungeons. But I was able to survive just fine on my own. It's not a situation where if you're ahead, you have to sit and wait for your teammates. If you're comfortable clearing ads, just like I was doing here, then I would definitely make sure that you're moving along. It'll save you some time, because your teammates will be able to just run through the areas to catch up with you. The ads won't respawn and won't cause you any issues. And once they're clear, as you see here, I'm running through this nice little cavernous area with very beautiful coral on the walls into a place where there's a parked tomb ship. The tomb ship's just going to spawn a ton of ads, and then those ads from there, same thing. You take them out, you move on to the next section, and it's, again, blistered knights that you're going to want to take out and move on there. Once you've cleared the blistered knights in this area, you're going to come up to a large cavernous area where a bunch of wizards are going to spawn. And so the wizards from there, they're going to be solar shields. So if you've got something solar, just pick at them. They're not that bad, but I can see how they could give some teams issues because once they start firing their attack, their kind of constant arc attack over and over again, they can easily chip your shields down. Once you're done with those wizards, though, there's going to be like a little bridge that you'll see that you can jump across, and then you'll run into a small cave. Be careful, there's a bunch of ads through the cave, so just make sure that you're ready. That way you're not stuck, getting beat on by a bunch of little thrall. It's almost like a little thrallway as you're coming through here. But I made quick work of them because, again, my suspend build just continued to pass down the unraveling and the corruption and suspend everything in the way. Once you get through to the next section, it's going to be another underground area. You're going to have that same scenario where you want to wait for your teammates to pop the bubble. You want to get one good jump in, because if you don't get that one good jump in, you're not going to make it all the way across. And if you need to, you just use this middle platform here and then hop over again. One good jump. You're going to grab the final bubble, and then you're going to end up in a dreadnought area. And the dreadnought area is pretty straightforward. It's going to shoot you up through a jet, and then you're going to end up walking through these platforms. There's a path through the platforms that's going to take you up and to the side. Just be careful because there's going to be some eyes spawning, and once those eyes spawn, they are at a bad angle if you're a little low, so just make sure you get up quickly so that way the seekers will not kill you, the screechers. And you'll have a couple blistered knights to take out as you're going through here. And it's pretty much just a little path until you get up to this wall that you're going to see where it's got a bunch of different paths that you can take. The two lower paths are going to be the ones that you go through. There's like a lower right and a lower mid path, and those will dump you down into the same spot. And once those dump you down, there's like a small little light coming from the side, and that's where you're going to jump through. Just be careful as a warlock. For me, the warlock jump was kind of pushing me against these little spikes. I ended up having to get up above the spikes because they wouldn't let me move forward. They were just like reaching out through their geometry, and you won't mantle and stuff. So just be careful about that as you're jumping through here. You're going to end up through a couple hallways, and then you're going to end up jumping down into like a coral area again. You're going to be in your depth suit again, and you're going to run through the same little kind of gauntlet that you're doing in the deep dives. And this one's actually not too bad, except for the fact that when you get to the very end, there's a little surprise for you. And as you can see, I turned around and you see a giant hive knight activating his super, basically, and he's there with the shield just running you down. And it's super intimidating, too, because you can hear the footsteps right behind you. So it's like, oh, God, I don't have my gun, I can't do anything, I can't use my abilities. And so you just move around and you'll end up finding an area that shoots you up into your jets. And from there, the second encounter itself is pretty much done, and now you're actually, or should I say, the traversal to the second encounter is done, and you're actually at the boss part. And so I'm going to go over the boss guide now and kind of explain how the boss of this portion works. All right, now from here, you start the encounter by interrupting the Acolytes ritual. That's going to spawn the boss from below and bring him up through the black pool in the middle to the top. And the idea is going to be kind of a repeating theme of matching the symbols up, kind of the deep sight Savathun style theme. How it works is there's going to be these little braziers hanging along the wall that are empty, and you're going to clear ads and clear, I think it was 3 knights, 3 yellow knights, and you'll get an ogre to spawn, very similar to the first encounter. So once that ogre spawns, then he's going to give you the ability to use deep sight. And when the ogre gives you the deep sight is going to activate in the pool where the knight came from at the bottom. Meanwhile, by the way, the ads are going to be spawning in each of the side doors and at the top, and the boss knight will be up there as well. So just be careful not to get blasted by the boss knight. Keep your distance. He does do a pretty good amount of damage, and can surprise you if you get like half health, and he'll end up catching you with his boomer. And the lower light guy was a little bit struggling because of that, because it was just too much damage in a short period of time for him to react. So once you get that done, you're going to get the deep side done, you're going to end up activating the deep sight, and then you're going to see on the wall these braziers are going to light up, and the braziers are going to give you 3 symbols. And so let me go over here and show how the symbols exactly look. In our situation, we had the symbol that looks a little bit like a spider or a squid there on the left, and we had the O. And then on the other side, let me take a look here. It was the scorpion. So we had the little squid, we had the O, and the scorpion. And so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be jumping down into the water. And you can have multiple people do this. You can have just one person do this. There's no real requirement who stays up, who stays down. Just don't all die at the same time. You're going to end up underneath, and these symbols are going to be along the wall. And as you see here, I found the spider. I'm going to walk up to the spider, just touch the rune. And if it's the wrong rune, it will kill you. So that's how you know you get the wrong rune. The right rune, it's going to light up, it's going to turn green, and it's going to look visibly activated. So once you get all 3 of these runes done, and you're down there dodging the knight in the water, by the way, because the knight is in the water still, hopping around and trying to kill you by slamming you. Fortunately, you have an overshield, so you don't have to worry too much. The only issue is like if you're running out of pressure and you're trying to get up through the jet, and the knight bumps you and you don't get all the way up or something. That's the only way I could foresee that being a big problem. Or if you just stay there and let him hit you. Once you get all 3 of these symbols done, then you're in the next phase. So what the next phase is going to look like is you're going to have wizards spawning, 3 Lightbearer wizards, one on the right, one on the left, and one in the middle. And they'll move around, so they may not always be in those particular spots. That's just kind of where they spawn in. But you're going to chase them down, and the person who gets the final hit on that wizard is going to get the ability to dunk the buff. They're going to get the vestige again. And so just like in the macrocosm encounter in the raid, you want to make sure that you're designating either who's getting it, or if everybody's good on your team and you just know, all right, I killed it, I'm going to go dunk. You're going to want to dunk left, mid, and right. And when I say dunk, it's going to be the same statues in the very first encounter. There's going to be 3 unactivated statues, one on the left, one in the middle, and one on the right, pictured here. And those statues just need to be activated in any order. There's no specific order, and there's no wrong way to do it, as long as you're not wasting the buff on the same statue twice, and I don't even think you can. So once you've lit all 3 of the statues up, then from there you end up getting to the DPS phase. And how the DPS phase initiates is a Hive Knight will spawn in the very front or the back of the room, depending on how you're oriented, but essentially right in front of the pool where the boss spawned. And so if you're looking at the pool, the knight's going to spawn right there where you're standing. And what I did is I would run up to the knight, I would weaken him, and then I would drop my well to either finish him or right after he died, drop my well, because then at that point it's going to be DPS time. A green pool will spawn where the knight's killed, and there'll be like a small star symbol over it letting you know where it's at. Just like the other encounters in the throne world, it works the exact same way. You stand in the green pool and you start to chip away at the boss's shield. I was using the machine gun at the time, and I ended up switching to sleeper. So what I would do is I would stand in the green pool, hit him with a couple sleeper shots, that would weaken him, and then I would just continue to go on from there with the sleeper. And if you really want to, you can just use your special to get him down and save your heavy. But the way that we were doing it, it worked out where I was actually popping his shield really quickly for our teammates, since I was kind of the highest light, so I was doing the most damage to the shield. That way they could get their DPS in too. So I was knocking his shield down with a couple of sleeper shots, and then from there I was just taking shots at his head. He doesn't move around a whole lot, but he does move just a little bit, so take your time. It's more important that you get all of your heavy ammo to connect with him than to rush, because you do get plenty of time to do DPS to him. And if you miss ammo and you get in a situation where you're missing your shots on your heavy, you're going to just create more of a hassle on the end to make the encounter much longer. But that's pretty much the whole setup, is rinse and repeat. Once you actually get enough damage in and he starts moving away from you back toward the pool, he'll go immune, and then you'll start an encounter all over again. You're going to kill the ads until the ogre spawns, and then from there you're going to use the ogre's ability to activate the deep sight. From the deep sight, you're going to look at the braziers and get your order of your symbols, and then from there you're going to use the symbols to open up the statues. The statues get activated by killing the Hive Wizards, which is going to give you the vestige to then dunk in the Hive Wizards, left, middle, and right, and then you're going to do DPS on the boss, and it's just rinse and repeat. The only thing that just makes it chaotic is the enemy density, but as long as you're running some type of survivability class, As long as you are making sure that always one person is up, there's no enrage timer that we experience, so it's just a marathon, and a lot of these fights are the same way. And then once you get in there and you get your final kill, the boss will spawn a chest right in the pool that he came through. And good luck on getting weapons. I was just getting armor, unfortunately. So even if I found a secret chest, I wasn't going to get a whole lot from it. But that's pretty much the second encounter. Once you get done with that second encounter, you'll start to look for a way to get to the next encounter like we did. What it is when you drop down, look around, you'll see a small path that wasn't open before. It is not the little green barrier that you were in initially. It'll be like a little small path off to the side, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like here. And then that small path will let you run up and through into the next area that you'll be traversing to get to the third encounter. So very much like this encounter, there's going to be a little bit of a long trek through a bunch of ads to get to the third encounter, and I'll go over that now. Okay, so surprise, once you get out into the area that leads to the second encounter, you'll see the Leviathan or Leviathan-like creature floating around out there. Unfortunately, there's no blessing from her, but as you'll see, we're doing the same thing that we talked about um, with the bubbles. We're gathering on the bubble to make sure that everybody gets it, because this is a long trek and the bubbles are few and far between, so you want to make sure that you're not hitting the bubble too early, because your teammates won't make it and they'll just have to wait, and it puts you back by a little bit. The next section is pretty straightforward. It's just a bunch of corridors with ads, and you're just going to be dropping down through multiple areas. That's very linear. You really can't get lost until you get out into the open, big open area where the wizard's floating around. There is going to be another Shrieker, another eye, that's going to be shooting at you. Since I had switched to Sleeper Simulant, it wasn't a big deal. One shot from the Sleeper and a little couple shots from my pulse rifle that I was running put him down. So any linear is good for those. Rocket launcher, as long as you fire it slightly up, will be good for those. And they're not that intimidating unless they catch you in a bad spot or you're already weak from trying to push too fast. So just take your time, clear these platforms, and make sure that you're waiting on your teammates, so that way they're not getting in a bad situation. Once you get to the very end, you'll see that there's like a giant ogre. The giant ogre is the only thing standing in your path from the next area, so you're going to clear the giant ogre. You can run through, and then you'll be able to drop down into this small little crack in the floor, and that's going to be the beginning of the descent into the final section. Once you get to the very bottom, you'll see that there's an area for the flag, and then when you look out, if you miss it, if you really don't pay attention and you're just kind of looking at the terrain, that's actually Oryx right there. So Oryx's body, once we killed him on the Dreadnought, fell all the way, ended up on Titan, landing at the bottom of the ocean, and there's a wizard trying to revive him using a ghost, and we're going to interrupt that wizard. And so in order to start the encounter, you're going to run up there, you're going to pop the ghost, and that's going to bring things as far as the ads and everything that starts spawning, and the wizard will get pissed off, and it'll get into a position in which it starts to attack you. So the wizard's attacks are very similar to a normal wizard, with the addition of this one attack that's very deadly, where she launches a bunch of the butterflies at you that can explode. And so just keep your eyes on the wizard if she has your focus, or if you have her focus, should I say, and watch out for those. You can still shoot them on the way in. They're not like immune or anything like that, but that's going to be her most deadly attack. Otherwise, it's just an enemy density thing. There's Revenant Knights in each side, top, middle, and right, and there's also going to be some Revenant Knights toward the back that'll spawn. The Acolytes are annoying as well, because they'll end up stacking up 3 or 4, 5 or 6 of them at a time, just shooting at you and picking at you, lowering your health, and then the wizard will finish you off if you're not careful. So just be mindful of the butterfly attack and the enemy density. Just kind of try to keep everything in front of you so that you don't end up getting surrounded and getting killed pretty easily in this area. Another pain point is picking up the deep sight. So once you start the encounter, you'll end up getting a deep sight to spawn automatically. We thought that you had to kill Vorlog, the knight that spawns there. It's going to be a yellow knight named Vorlog. We thought you had to kill him to get the deep sight to spawn, but it actually spawns regardless. And so what you're going to be doing here on the outside is you're going to be picking up the deep sight and paying attention to where these little small black orbs show up around Oryx's body. Oryx has different points on his body, and I'll kind of show them here. And before I do, just a pro tip, along the edges, you'll notice that there's pools that you can jump into to take you to different sections of the map. Those are going to come into play soon, but another little pro tip if you're getting wrecked is you can jump into that wall of water. It's going to give you an overshield. Enemies can't shoot you, and you can just wait until your shields regenerate. So that'll be a good way to save a run if you're in a situation where you're about to die, your teammates have died, and you're the last one. Just hop into the water, let your shield regenerate, and then you can pop back out and pop back in again, kill a couple ads, and then kind of recover from there. So the areas that we're going to be looking at on Oryx are going to be his chest, which is where the ghost was initially where you popped, his both arms, and how we were calling it by his body. So his left arm was on the right if you were looking at his body, looking at his chest, and it mirrored essentially. So his right arm is on your left, his left arm is on the right, and that's how we were calling it. If you want to call it left arm, right arm, based on how you're looking at it, that's fine. But those are the ways that I call it, just so you know when I'm talking about certain sides of him. His right leg would be on the left of the screen as I have it here, and then his left leg, of course, is on the right of the screen as I have it here. And so you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points to worry about. Actually, 8. So you have his arms, you have his legs, you have his feet. Then you're going to have his chest, and then you're going to have one at the tip of his head, very at the top of his crown, where the knights spawn up there. And those spawn points, any of those 3 can be the chosen for your round. So once you grab the deep sight, you're going to see a green line connecting those 3 points with 3 little black orbs. And your goal is to call to your teammate. In this case, ours was chest, and knee, and it looks like his left foot. And so those are the 3 that we call out. Once you stand on those, you'll notice that the floor underneath them will turn green with a green rune that surrounds that area. And that's how you know that you've activated that zone. And the goal of what you're going to do is to drag Vorlog, the Yellow Knight, into a place where you can shoot and kill him while standing on the appropriate body part, one of the 3 body parts that's marked by the orbs. When you do that, you're going to get a little message at the bottom of your screen that's going to let you know that you did it right. And from there, the symbol that is associated with that body part will pop up over the area once you've gotten it correct, and you will move on to the next area. And every time you do that, you're going to get a symbol. And every time you do that, it's going to give you a connection. The same green connection that was connecting the dark orbs will be hovering around the symbols. Upon completing the symbol, what you'll see is a small ring will show up from one of the other areas that you're going to be activating. And the goal with the ring is to move to an area where you can see through the ring the Savathun symbol, or maybe it'll be Zebra Roth symbol. But the idea, that, again, is to line up that ring with the symbol, stand still and shoot the symbol. Sometimes I was trying to jump and shoot it, and sometimes it would give it to me, but most of the time you have to stand completely still and get perfectly aligned with that symbol. When you shoot the symbol, it'll disappear, and then from there you can move on to the next glyph. So once you do all 3 symbols, what we were doing was we were moving as a unit. You can split up if you'd like, but each of these sides, and I'll show them here, there's a left area, there's a middle area below Oryx's body, and then to the right there's a right area, have hive knights, acolytes, and wizards, so the Lucent hive champions. And so they'll be the same on each side. The right side is always the wizard, the middle section is always going to be the acolyte / hunter, and the left section is always going to be the knight that has the titan powers. And how that'll work is you're going to go into his room, you're going to see a symbol in the center of the room, and once you get to that symbol, you're going to try to remember that. So just call it out. If it's like the little equal symbol, call it out. Kill the knight. The person who kills the knight is going to get vestige, and that's going to be the same buff that you picked up in the first encounter. That vestige is going to allow you then to activate one of the little black nodes on the outside that corresponds with the symbol. And so let's say it's the equal sign, and the equal sign is the head, for example. You're going to kill the knight, you're going to come out, you're going to grab the deep sight again, which is going to bring up those little green lines with the orbs, and you're going to activate the symbol at the head, for example, and then the head symbol will then be done. And so then you have to do that 2 more times. So you have to go into the other side, kill the Acolyte, come out and activate its symbol and its location. You're going to go to the wizard side, you're going to come out, and then you're going to activate the wizard symbol and its location. So once you've done those three, and just again to reiterate, you pick up the vestige by killing the person who ends up crushing the ghost, essentially, ends up getting the buff. That person will then go to the corresponding symbol, stand on the little black orb after activating the deep sight. What we were having is I was having X here, as you'll see on the screen, activate the deep sight for me, or I was activating the deep sight for myself because it was a little easier for me to tank the damage since I was running for survivability, which is super important. I was running healing grenade. I was doing everything I could to stay alive because there's just a ton of stuff shooting at you all at the same time, and you're very vulnerable when activating the deep sight. You activate the deep sight, you essentially dunk, or you activate the little buff on the orb that matches your symbol, and then you move on to the next area as a group. That's what we were doing. We were doing one at a time. And be real careful with the knight side, because the knight has that ability to bounce the shield around and hit you multiple times. There was one run that we had ended where we were basically done. I think it was our very first run, and we had a guy leave us mid-run, and we replaced him mid-run because you can actually join during the encounter, and we were about to finish it, and everybody went over to the Hive Knight. I didn't know they were behind me, and the Hive Knight bounced both shields right through me, and it just killed me, and then I turned around and they're dying, so everybody died, and the boss had like a few percentage left. We had one more phase, and we were going to kill the boss. So be very careful there. On the Knight side, spread out, don't bunch up, pick at him, and then grab his ghost, and then move on. So that's going to be the main mechanics and the main kind of like encounter points. The rotation that you're going to do is to go from the middle section, have Vorlog activate all three of the symbols so you know what they are, go to all three of the rooms together, kill the Knight, kill the Wizard, and then kill the Acolyte. Come back out, of course, one at a time as a group, and activate the symbol one at a time. And once you're activating that very last symbol, be ready. What we were trying to do was to either DPS in a spot where like it was very visible, the Wizard, or we would just go to the chest and we would DPS there. So once I was getting ready to dunk the very last of the three in the chain, we would go to the chest. I would drop my Rift, or my Well of Radiance, should I say, and from the Well of Radiance, we were knocking down the shield just like the second encounter boss. I was hitting the boss with a couple of Sleeper Simulant shots, and that was knocking down the shield, and then the boss will then teleport a few times. Once the boss has teleported twice, I believe, the boss won't teleport again, so be very judicious on your shots on the very first two teleports, and once it gets to that third teleport, just hammer the boss with the rest of your ammo. That way you don't make any necessary misses. And once you're out of Well of Radiance, because it will run out, or whatever survivability tactic you're using, then you can get up closer to the boss because you've already popped his shield. And so I was just running up on the boss with my fusion rifle and just blasting him with the fusion rifle to try to chip down his shield. And that's pretty much the fight. You're going to rinse and repeat this. Most teams are probably going to, like, LFGs, because again, I do these with LFGs, probably going to take around 3 to 4, maybe even 5 if you got somebody doing very little damage, passes on this. And so again, it's a marathon. It's not a boss check, or it's not some crazy, like, you have to execute in a specific way within a few seconds or you wipe scenario. The only time you die is if you don't dunk a proper visage in the right place, or you don't dunk it in time. You'll get killed from there. But what killed us the most was bunching up and getting too aggressive in certain cases. We had one run where we're at the very end, and I'll show it here, where we're getting ready to kill him, and I'm right underneath the boss, and I'm hitting him with everything I got, and we're trying to just commit, and somehow the boss was looking at me, but killed me and my teammates at the same time while only shooting at me, and I don't know how that happened, but basically I died from the boss, and then I'm turning around on my screen, and they're dead, and I'm like, how the hell did you guys die? And we lost with 1% health. So just take your time, stay safe. If you're getting a little bit low, it's fine to retreat and just do another phase. They don't take very long, especially if you get comfortable, like splitting up and killing each of the Knight, Wizard, and Hive at the same time, and then running in and dunking at the same time if you're like really, really good with your teammates. But just to be safe, is on an LFG, just go together. Just go as a group, clear each side, come out, do each side, boom, boss is dead. And that's pretty much the whole encounter. You get your loot from the center underneath the chest where Oryx's body's at, and then you get to go and hear some of the cool lore that they have. It's not exactly like groundbreaking lore, Don't forget to go back to Hawthorne too to turn in the quest. Nothing special that you get from her, but it just gets the quest out of your inventory, so it doesn't affect your bounties. But I loved the dungeon overall. The enemy density was just right. It wasn't too much. It wasn't like super little or boring. It wasn't a snooze fest. I know that there will be some people who might say, oh, it was too easy. Oh, we did it in like the first hour and nobody died and so on and so forth. But that's, again, people who are in these all the time. And this is what they do. And they're super sweaty and they know each other and they know each other how they play. They have all the gear. That's not going to be the reality for most players, and especially people doing it in LFG. So this is a very LFG friendly dungeon. It's beautiful. It is a very well thought out and well designed dungeon. It's not as annoying as Connect the Dots with the last two dungeons as far as kind of keeping that same theme. While it did still kind of have a little bit of that when you're talking about connecting the three areas of Oryx, it really did throw in additional variations by having to get the buff, get the deep sight, get into the right spot. It was a very well designed boss fight, and each of the fights I believed were all enjoyable. Nothing was a slog. Nothing was too tedious or boring or anything like that. The only thing that was annoying was just dying to dumb stuff, like dying to the Night Shield bouncing 6 or 7 times and killing you. You can't do nothing about it. Or dying to the boss shooting all three of us at the same time somehow. So that's the only thing that you just have to watch out for, is just little annoying wipes. But other than that, the mechanics are very clear. They're straightforward. Survivability is key. And I haven't done the mastery yet or the challenge, but I imagine the challenge, if there is anything like that, is going to be like everybody has to dunk at the same time, or the same person can't dunk more than once, or something like that. So nothing too wild as far as groundbreaking goes, but it's a cool dungeon. You guys enjoy. If you have any questions or you guys are running into any issues and it's something that I didn't touch on, just leave me a comment below and I'd be glad to try to help you guys out. Thanks very much again for watching. I appreciate all my new subscribers, my subscribers that have been sticking around for some of my guides or just informative videos in general. I always try to put out videos that are very helpful, and I try not to put out some of the spammy videos, but every now and then I may put out like, hey, get this from the gunsmith or do these things, but it's not something that I'm going to do like every week, especially because I just don't have that kind of time. So again, appreciate all the subs. Enjoy the outro. Thanks very much. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you in the next video.